Hi everyone. I just want to share with you today about the trials that happened 2,000 years ago. That is the court trial of Jesus Christ, who changed the course of history through his death. Here, some description that we know about the trial of Jesus. We sometimes were misguided by distractions. For example, that Bible says that Pilate tried to release Jesus as hard as he can, but failed. But through some of the pictures, I think I remember every movie about Jesus Christ's trial. I saw that Pilate was regarded as is described as a man who trying to mock Jesus with the soldiers. But that is not true actually, because the Pilate himself was a man who really liked Jesus Christ himself. Because it is also quite well known in his report to the Emperor Tiberius that he knows a man called Jesus. Because as a governor of Judea, it is his responsibility to check if the Jesus movement. Because many people followed Jesus, so it is quite a concern that if there is like a political movement, like a sedition or a rebellion, then Pilate, it is his responsibility. But when he checked Jesus' activity, Jesus' ministry, he found that according to his information, that the reports that he get from his secretaries and all that, Jesus was not a political person. He was instead like quite cooperative with the Roman government, and actually had contentions with Jewish leaders like Pharisees and Sadducees. So it is not true that the Pilate ridiculed Jesus Christ, because he also says on one occasion he was patrolling the city of Jerusalem, and he found a group of people, and in the middle of the group he found one man standing, and then he just remembers the such a shocking image. The impression he had, and he described Jesus as like having mustache and the golden color hair and all that. And he found that that because he did not want to interrupt Jesus' teaching, so he sent his secretary called Manius, and then because Manius was able to speak Hebrew, he was able to listen to him, and he reported to him in the night, and then what he heard, and he reported that Jesus' teaching was such a sublime teaching man has never heard before, something like that. So from that time on, Pilate really loved Jesus, and he cared for Jesus. Actually, he just extended his protection against Jesus, because Jesus had many enemies. Like also Herod was trying to kill Jesus sometime, but Pilate intervened, and then he just gave a strong message to Herod that because he reported about Jesus, that Herod should be hands off Jesus. So Herod was not able to do it. In many cases, Pilate helped Jesus and protected him, because his teachings never posed any threat to Roman government. Actually, Pilate did not like Jewish leaders, Pharisees and Sadducees, because the first in the beginning of his position, his office as governor. I mean, he made a big banquet and invited many Jewish leaders like Pharisees and Sadducees, and also Herod, Tetrarch, the king, but all boycotted Pilate. So he was so much humiliated, and because their excuse was that the Jewish people are not having a dinner with Gentiles, so that is the excuse. He accepted that, but it's not type of attitude toward the new coming governor. But he was not happy, and then he just saw the people are so much like hypocrites. So he didn't like the Jewish leaders very much. So, but instead he just extended his protection against against any threat against Jesus. So, but it is not true that Pilate actually ridiculed Jesus, because it is not his intention, because Pilate actually admired Jesus and loved him, and then he just sometimes he said also wanted to have a chance to take Jesus to Rome, or the emperor coming to Judea, and he wanted to have the have a chance to meet both Jesus and the emperor meet together, something like that. But that did not happen because Jesus died too early, after maybe 3 years, of his ministry. He just the in those areas, like the Herod and then the Pilate, the Roman governor, they are two people who are able to kill someone, guilty of death, because no other people are able to put death sentence to anyone. So, but the Herod also had a power to do it, but he was not. He was forbidden by Pilate about this. Because the emperor is also is informed about this, and then actually the Roman Senate is approved the Pilate's protection. So with all these in mind, it is not it's not true that that Pilate, out of like a coward mind, or out of something bad mind, he ridiculed Jesus and tried to kill Jesus. But the thing is that if you look at what really happened in that trial court, we'll be able to understand what really happened, because all accusations against, all charges against Jesus was, as you all know, that is about like blasphemies. He said he was son of God. He said he would destroy the temple, all those stuffs. But all those stuffs are not enough to put death sentence. Actually, the leaders of Jewish people, like Pharisees and Sadducees, they are not that stupid people. They know very well about the law and then how the system works. So when they try to, they are very crafty. They just meet together and they just devise every possibility, and then try to put a snare on Jesus' neck. They just wanted to have as many charges as possible. But those charges are not worthy of death. So the only charge that will make Jesus inescapable of death is that his claim to be the king. Because at that time, the Roman emperor was the emperor, and nobody can claim to be king without the emperor's approval, without emperor's appointment, like King Herod. So if someone claims to be the king and has many followers, it will be regarded as treason, which will be will be worthy of death. So that is the only accusation that will put Jesus to death. So, but the problem with the Pharisees and Sadducees, or those leaders, when they try to charge Jesus, they know that Jesus never claimed to be the king of Israel, because actually Jesus said that he came to save the world. He came to serve the world, and even though he was the king, he did not tell his followers that he is the king. But instead, people following Jesus sometimes try to make him king. That is true. But Jesus never said that he was king in his whole life. But how could that accusation can be possible? But considering all this stuff, they can accuse Jesus as claiming to be the king. But but if Jesus refused that accusation, like no, I have never claimed to be the king, then their accusation will be invalid. So the judge, the Pilate, will be entitled to release him. So it's okay, no problem. But so the Pharisees and Sadducees, they was very much worried about this issue, because that's why they, in the beginning, brought some charges against Jesus Christ, blasphemies mostly. But later on, when Pilate was adamant, and Pilate would not allow any death, through this type of accusations, but the charges that he claimed to be the king is something that Pilate should make sure. So he should be able to make sure that Jesus claimed to be the king. So, but Jesus actually was not so much cooperative with the Pilate's intention, because Pilate just wanted to release Jesus, but Jesus did not cooperate with him. The problem with this charge of claiming to be the king is, even though Jesus never claimed to be the king, the problem was he actually was the king. That was the problem. Even though he was the king, he never claimed to be the king. So when Pilate inquired if Jesus was the king, another problem with Jesus is that also Jesus cannot lie. So when Pilate inquired if he was king, and Jesus said, "Yes, I am." This is the situation that happened that made Jesus take the cross and be crucified. If Jesus didn't want to take the cross, he could say to Pilate, in a simple way, "No, sir, I have never claimed to be the king." But then Pilate will be, okay to go ahead with, even though there were many issues of sedition, because many people, is told very much. So it's almost like a riot is going to happen. So, but Pilate was not that timid person. He was like political. In that position, he is not such an easy type of person. He also confessed that he is a man that having no fear or emotional weakness. He is like a strong man. But here, in this very important issue of king, Jesus did not help him. So that is why in that courtroom, nobody knew exactly what's going to happen. Only Jesus Christ is the one who knows his destiny, because nobody knows about the cross. Why Jesus should take the cross? He had many chances of not taking cross, but that is not his purpose. So intentionally, I think Jesus confessed that he was king. He did not claim to be the king, but because when in his in Pilate's question about the king, and he said a king. So that is the reason that happened. In that, no other charges against Jesus was such an important as the issue of a king. I have prepared some short, like about 5 minute, 6 minute discussion. I mean the court questionnaires with Pilate and Jesus. So I think this will give us a clear understanding of what really happened. After his verdict, and Pilate was so much, his conscience was so much torn apart. So he just sobbed, and he had all his life like in such a regret. But so, and all his secretaries, his people, they all became Christians after this incident. But it's very unlucky that this man Pilate, he committed suicide because he cannot resist the conscience, this of his killing Jesus. So because he knew that, he also hated Pharisees and Sadducees. So when this one this trial was over, his supplement from his neighboring Syria came to Jerusalem, and actually now he was able to control the Jerusalem without any problem. So just like because he was so much angry, he just literally butchered many people against him, and so people also claimed to the emperor and then the other people. So for that reason, the Pilate was recalled and was exiled, and then he spent his life committed suicide there in the city of Vienna, which is a southern part of France now. So yeah, that is what exactly happened, I think. So the understanding that we had so far, that the Pilate really was stupid judge, or he just he was like timid, he was a coward, or I think all those traditional understanding that we saw through the movies, that is, I think, misguided information. Pilate actually, he really loved Jesus Christ, and he wanted to protect him as much as possible, but because of these tricks and then the in cooperation of Jesus Christ led him to give a death verdict anyway. So this will just because that is maybe the reason that Jesus came to this world, and because of his cross, we all humans are have a hope of salvation. Now, okay, I'm going to read this brief about 5-6 minute court hearings between Pilate and Jesus. Okay, it starts from Pilate. He's saying to Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, for the last 3 years I have given you ample freedom of speech, even though these hypocrites have raised complaints every day about my silence toward you. My secretary Manius reported to me that your teachings are neither seditious nor rebellious, but of such a sublime majesty. That is why I extended to you my protection, perhaps unknown to you, to yourself. Even when I got news that Herod was trying to kill you, it is I, the governor's office, that stopped him with the message that the Emperor Tiberius is informed of you, and the Senate approved of my protection against you. I was told that recently these people were using significant amount of temple money to bribe and instigate the mob to plot something during this Passover feast. We have been on alert on all sides and asked reinforcement to suppress any uprising. Now I know their scheme was all about you. I am in trouble now. I tried to release you because I thought these leaders delivered you out of jealousy, and the crowd were in favor of you, but they all want Barabbas released and you crucified. What happened with your followers? Where are those who welcomed you when you came riding on a donkey last time? Why am I hearing this thunderous voice of crucify him from this huge crowd? This time they have come with the proper legal documents. Who is this guy that signed this paper? Judas Iscariot. Isn't he one of your followers? Disciples? They listed many items about your crimes. Whether you blasphemed their God or you said you would destroy their temple, it is none of my business. But sometimes it is harder to neglect their council decision without valid reason, because our government recognized the council. I also detest them as much as you do, but the last item mentioning your claim that you are king is something I need to be clear about. You said your kingdom is not of this world. I understand that you are spiritual king. I know from my sources you never claimed to be king. Instead, you taught meekness and humbleness. In order to master, man should be servant, and so on. I do not know why they could accuse you for this when it is not true. Anyway, without knowing much of their intrigues, I thought that they would have compassion on you if they see your body torn apart and bruised by the whips. But it was my mistake again. They really want your life, and they mean it this time. They must have planned this for a long time with cunning craftiness. I am afraid I am trapped in their setup. If I release you, they will revolt, and I do not have enough soldiers to suppress it. Or at least they will appeal to Syrian Governor Vitellius, who is the emperor's second man. He will accuse me to the emperor. I do not know how to explain to the emperor and the Senate the difference between spiritual king and worldly king, if I am recalled and stand before him. Politics is so complicated. If the emperor sees other reports differing from what I reported to the Senate concerning you, it will be evident on investigation that I exhibited certain zeal toward the power of Caesar than was required in my duty as governor. However, I must also execute Roman justice and cannot condemn an innocent person to death by giving in to the pressure of this wicked mob. In my veins flows Spanish mixed with Roman blood, as incapable of fear as it is weak in motion. And the Roman Empire is not that weak, and its governors will not give in to this type of pressure. And the Jews will not dare to revolt for fear of the result they can easily imagine. Reinforcement is on its way now. I do not understand why you accept the title of king which you have not claimed so far. Remember, this can work against you very bad in this emperor's court. Socrates was also killed in a similar situation, but he was an old man. You are just 33 years old now and in the prime of your life. Please be more circumspect and moderate. I do not want to sentence someone I have tried to protect to be delivered to be crucified. Now, for the last time, I must ask you the same question again. You should know what I mean by this. Are you the King, Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus said, Prince of the earth, I have come to the world for this purpose, and all prophecies of the prophets must be fulfilled. I pity you. Do your duty as allowed to you. Those who delivered me to you are of greater sin. My answer to your question is yes, I am king. Shocked by the answer, Pilate asked, "Where are you from?" Knowing what he means, Jesus said, "Why do you introduce such a question when you are not ready to understand the answer?" After some silence, Pilate commands the secretary to get water for him. He sits at the judgment seat and washes his hands and tells the crowd, "I am innocent of this blood of this man." They said, "Let his blood be on us and on our children." Pilate said, "I do not believe your children will be happy in such an inheritance." They said, "It is our affair." We all know after this, all the Bible history tells us that all this was completed in the history of mankind. And really, Jesus did not cooperate with Pilate's endeavor to release Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ, he already knew just before he got caught, in the Mount of Gethsemane. He just prayed honestly to God that he knew that he should take their cross. But Pilate, this poor Pilate, who was not aware of all these heavenly things, he just did as a as government officer. But these things that happened here is the really changed the course of history. And Pilate was so sorry about, because he, the conscience that the conscience stricken, he just, all the time sobbing and then sometimes crying for what he did to this innocent man Jesus. It was really sorry that, because many people, because his steps, many of his steps became Christians later, but and then they also um, uh, told Pilate many times about Jesus Christ, because if Pilate can accept Jesus Christ, God can forgive him whatever sins he committed. But because of the weight of that, the verdict that he did really pushed him to the corner, and then he really, I'm really sorry that he just finished his life by committing suicide. In jumping on the cliff, he just finished his life. Yeah, so this is the history of the cross of Jesus. So much important in world history. A lot of sad things happening. Sometimes it is impossible that some people fall, but it is better to have a stone on his neck, instead, and then the drown is better. That's what Jesus told us. So I think we all need to understand that the Jesus devotion, his determination that he will die, he should die, really made that trial happen as it happened. I hope you give second thought about this, and how much Jesus loved us, and then he had to die. He refused to be released. He just kept on going to die on the cross. That's a really lovely, important love story from God. Thank you very much.